My name is Emily Carter, and if you saw me today, you'd probably think I've always had it together. From the corner office window of my Manhattan high-rise, the city stretches wide, glass towers glittering under the August sun. I adjust the cuff of my cream silk blouse, the fabric cool against my wrist, and the gleam of my watch catches the light. It's not just any watch, it's mine. My brand. My empire. But what no one sees when they glance at me in this polished boardroom, or when they read about me in glossy magazines, is the story behind that watch. The sting. The laughter. The fire it lit inside me. Just as I'm preparing for the afternoon investor call, my phone buzzes on the mahogany desk. A name flashes across the screen. Jason Miller. My cousin. The same Jason who once mocked me for wearing a watch that looked like it came from a yard sale. The same Jason whose smirk burned itself into my memory. He's in town. Wants to meet. For a moment, I just stare at his message, my manicured finger hovering over the screen. My heart flickers between irony and anger, but mostly a quiet kind of pride. If only he knew where that careless joke had carried me. I lean back in my chair, the faint ticking of the watch at my wrist echoing louder than the city noise below. This, right here, is where the past begins to collide with the present. I wasn't always Emily Carter, CEO. Once I was just Emily, 19, broke, and holding on to scraps of confidence like they were air. It was the summer before sophomore year of college, when my family gathered at Aunt Linda's house in Connecticut. The Millers always loved their backyard barbecues, shiny grills, fresh lemonade, laughter echoing across the lawn. I remember tugging nervously at my faded denim jacket, trying to blend in. And then there was my watch. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't even new. It was my grandmother's. A simple, worn-out leather strap with a tiny, round face that ticked just a little too slow. To me, it was priceless. She had given it to me the year before she passed, whispering in her soft, raspy voice. Time is all we really own, Emily. Don't waste it proving yourself to anyone. Use it to build yourself. I thought of her every time I wore it, but Jason noticed. Of course, Jason always noticed. He was a year older than me, tall, confident, already flashing around the newest iPhone and a designer watch his dad had bought him. When his eyes landed on my wrist that day, his smirk spread like wildfire. Nice watch, Em, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Did you dig that out of a thrift store bin? Laughter erupted from the picnic table, cousins, aunts, even a few uncles chuckling uncomfortably. My face burned hot. I tucked my hand into my pocket, but it was too late. The damage was done. I forced a weak smile, my throat tight, my palms sweating. I remember excusing myself, rushing inside, and standing alone in the bathroom. My reflection stared back, eyes glassy, jaw clenched. That stupid laugh of his echoed in my ears, over and over. For the first time, I hated that watch. And yet, when I held it in my trembling hands, something shifted. My grandmother's words came back, clear as if she were standing behind me. Time is all we really own. Right then, a spark lit inside me. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I promised myself one thing. Jason would never have the last laugh. Not with me. That night, I went home and pulled out an old notebook. On the very first page, I scribbled one word in big, shaky letters. Watches. I didn't realize it then, but that was the night my real life began. I didn't know the first thing about designing a watch. But I knew how it felt to be humiliated, and I knew I would never feel that small again. That night, with my grandmother's watch ticking softly beside my bed, I started researching everything I could. The history of Swiss craftsmanship, the anatomy of gears, the psychology of luxury branding. I devoured every article, every YouTube lecture, every dusty book I could find at the campus library. Of course, passion doesn't pay tuition. During the day, I worked shifts at a small cafe just off campus, pouring lattes and wiping down sticky counters. At night, I sketched designs on the backs of receipt paper, my hands stained with ink and coffee grounds. My roommate, Allison, thought I was crazy. Emily, you're 19. You can't just start a watch company. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't let go. Then came the turning point. My design professor, Dr. Helen Brooks, noticed me doodling gears and watch faces in the margins of my project sketchbook. Instead of scolding me, she leaned in and said, "You know, these are good. Have you thought about industrial design?" That was the first time an adult, outside of grandma, believed in me. Helen became my mentor, introducing me to alumni networks, small design competitions, and eventually, a retired watchmaker named Charles Whitman. Charles was gruff, with silver hair and grease permanently etched into his fingertips, but he saw something in me. "Most people chase profit," he said, squinting at my sketches. "But you? You care about the story behind the timepiece. That's rare. Don't lose it." With his guidance, I built my first prototype. It was clunky, uneven, the leather strap a bit too stiff, but it was mine. The night I held it, my hands trembled, not from shame this time, but from possibility. Still, the world didn't roll out a red carpet. My first 5 pitches to small boutiques were rejected outright. Too plain. Too new. No one knows you. Each rejection stung, but instead of quitting, I went back to the workbench. Tweaked. Refined. Learned. Finally, one boutique owner in Brooklyn agreed to display 3 of my watches in a corner glass case. I checked on them every single day, expecting disappointment. Then, one afternoon, the owner called. "Emily," she said, "all 3 sold. A customer asked if you have more." I remember sinking to the floor of my tiny dorm room, phone pressed to my ear, tears streaming down my face. It was small, almost nothing in the grand scheme, but to me it was everything. Words spread slowly. More boutiques. A few private clients. Then an email from a small online luxury retailer. By senior year, I wasn't just sketching dreams, I was selling them. But through it all, I stayed quiet with my family. On Facebook, I posted the occasional busy with school or internship going well. No hints of the nights I slept on the studio floor or the deals I was negotiating over coffee-stained contracts. Because deep down, I wanted the reveal to be more than words. I wanted it to be undeniable. I wanted the day to come when Jason would look at me and realize the cousin he mocked for wearing a thrift store watch now owned the time he once wasted laughing at her. And that day was coming faster than he could ever imagine. The message from Jason lingered on my phone for days. Finally, I replied with a simple, "Sure, come by my office." Friday at 3. When Friday came, the city was humming, the late afternoon sun streaking gold across the skyline. My office, perched on the 34th floor of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan, gleamed with quiet elegance. Every detail reflected years of struggle and triumph. The polished oak conference table, the framed magazine covers featuring my brand, the glass case displaying prototypes of our best-selling watches. I adjusted the cuff of my blazer and glanced at the engraved brass plaque on the door. Carter Timepieces, CEO, Emily Carter. It still felt surreal. At exactly 3, the receptionist buzzed me. "Your cousin Jason is here. And he brought your aunt and uncle." Of course he did. The door opened, and there he was, Jason Miller. Taller, broader, but still with that same smug half-smile. Aunt Linda trailed behind, her pearls glinting, Uncle Frank adjusting his tie as if preparing for an interview. "Emily," Aunt Linda exclaimed, arms wide. "Oh, it's been too long." Jason's eyes darted around the office, widening slightly at the sleek decor, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the quiet hum of success in the air. "This is nice," he muttered, stuffing his hands into his pockets. I gestured toward the conference table. "Please sit." We exchanged pleasantries, the kind of surface-level chatter families use when they haven't seen each other in years. But I could feel Jason's restlessness. He wanted to know, needed to know. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, smirking. "So, Emily, what exactly do you do here? Executive assistant? Marketing?" My lips curved into the faintest smile. I reached across the table, sliding a glossy brochure toward him. On the front, embossed in silver, was the logo of Carter Timepieces, the brand now sold in boutiques from New York to Paris. He frowned, flipping through. His voice caught.
Wait.
This is yours. Yes, I said evenly. I founded it. I own it. The silence that followed was delicious. Aunt Linda blinked rapidly, her pearls trembling against her chest. Uncle Frank cleared his throat, as if trying to process. Jason just stared, the color draining from his face. I let the moment breathe. Let them take in the photos of celebrities wearing my designs, the article titled, "The Young Woman Redefining American Luxury." Let them absorb the weight of the truth. Jason finally laughed, but it was hollow. You're telling me the cousin we teased for wearing that sad little watch now owns the brand you probably can't afford. I finished, my voice steady calm. I leaned back, resting my wrist on the table, the newest Carter timepiece gleaming in the afternoon light. Do you remember that barbecue, Jason? When you told everyone my watch looked like it came from a thrift shop. His smirk faltered. That watch was my grandmother's, I continued softly. And that day, your laughter lit a fire I've carried ever since. Every late night, every rejection, every design, I poured it all into building this, into proving, not to you, but to myself, that no one defines my worth but me. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. My design, of course. Aunt Linda finally spoke, her voice trembling. Emily, we had no idea. You've done incredibly well for yourself. I smiled, but there was steel in my tone.
Yes,
I have. Jason's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally muttered, I didn't mean. I cut him off gently, raising a hand. It doesn't matter what you meant, Jason. What matters is what I became. And in that moment, watching their stunned faces, I realized the reveal wasn't just for them. It was for me. The girl who once hid in a bathroom with tears in her eyes had finally stepped into the light, unapologetically herself. Jason sat stiffly in his chair, still processing. Aunt Linda smoothed her skirt over and over, like she was trying to iron out the tension in the room. Uncle Frank cleared his throat again, but no words came. Finally, Jason leaned forward, his old arrogance flickering. So, Carter timepieces. That's impressive, Em. Really impressive. Maybe you could, I don't know, hook me up with a job? Marketing, brand ambassador, something like that. I studied him for a moment. Years ago, his words had reduced me to silence. Today, I let the silence stretch on my terms. Then, calmly, I said, Jason, this company wasn't built on handouts. It was built on grit, rejection, and thousands of hours no one ever saw. If you want a place in my world, you're going to have to earn it. His smirk faltered. Earn it? I'm family. Exactly, I said softly. And family should be the last to exploit what they once mocked. The words hung heavy. Aunt Linda's face flushed pink. Emily, darling, he didn't mean anything by that barbecue. We were all just joking. I raised a hand gently. I know. But jokes leave scars. And those scars taught me boundaries. I stood, walking toward the glass case that displayed my grandmother's old watch beside my newest model, a reminder of where I started and where I am now. I turned back to face them. So here are my conditions, I said firmly, my voice steady, but not unkind. If you want my help, jobs, opportunities, introductions, then you need to change the way you move through this world. Jason frowned. What does that even mean? It means, I said, locking eyes with him, you don't belittle people for what they wear. You don't measure worth by the size of a price tag. You don't mock someone's starting line, because you never know where their finish line will be. You want to work here?
Fine.
Prove you can respect people first. He shifted uncomfortably, but didn't argue. Then I turned to Aunt Linda and Uncle Frank. And you too. If you want to be part of my life, it can't just be when the success is shiny. I need you to respect the woman who struggled, not just the one sitting in this office now. No more whispers about me being too ambitious. No more underestimating me, because I'm a woman. If you want access to this world, you'll honor the journey that built it. Aunt Linda's eyes welled up. She nodded slowly, clutching Uncle Frank's hand. I softened my tone just slightly. I'm not shutting doors. I'm opening them, but only if you're willing to walk through differently. For the first time that afternoon, Jason dropped his gaze. He looked smaller. Not humiliated like he had once left me, but humbled. And maybe, just maybe, that was better. Because this wasn't revenge. This was balance. I sat back down, folding my hands over the smooth oak table.
So,
The choice is yours. You can keep pretending that day at the barbecue didn't matter, or you can accept that it did and learn from it. If you're willing to grow, I'll be here. If not, then this is where our paths end. The room was quiet, the only sound the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. My clock.
my time.
My rules. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Jason didn't call me for a job right away. Instead, I heard from Aunt Linda that he'd enrolled in a night class for business fundamentals at the local community college. For the first time in his life, he was trying to build something of his own instead of coasting on someone else's. Maybe my words had struck deeper than his pride wanted to admit. Aunt Linda and Uncle Frank softened, too. They started reaching out, not with favors to ask, but with genuine questions about my work, my travels, even my well-being. It wasn't perfect. Family rarely is, but it was progress. One late evening, after a long day at the office, I found myself alone in my apartment. The city lights blinked outside my window like stars caught between glass towers. I poured a glass of wine and walked to the small velvet box I kept on my dresser. Inside lay my grandmother's old watch, its leather strap cracked, its face worn smooth by years of use. I held it in my palm, feeling the weight of it, heavier than it looked, carrying every memory, every humiliation, every lesson. For a long time, I just stood there listening to the faint, uneven ticking. She had been right. Time was the only thing we truly owned. And what I chose to do with mine had changed everything. I slipped the watch onto my wrist, just for the night. Beside it gleamed the latest Carter model, sleek, modern, flawless. The contrast made me smile. One told the story of where I began, the other, where I had arrived. Together, they were my truth. I thought about that barbecue, about Jason's laughter, about the bathroom mirror where I once cried. If I could step back into that moment now, I wouldn't hide my wrist. I would lift it high and let the world see. Because the watch he mocked had become the fire that forged me. I raised my glass to the city skyline, whispering the words I wished my grandmother could hear. Thank you for teaching me that time is mine to define. And in my heart, I knew this wasn't just about proving Jason wrong. It was about proving myself right. The girl who once shook with shame was gone. In her place stood a woman who measured life not in seconds lost, but in legacies built. The watch my cousin once mocked didn't define me, but today, I define time itself.